Mark Allen here. Here we go. The second season. One of the things that I want to talk about today is what I call the invisible injury. Do you know what that is? That's being fatigued. And that can be sort of like a low-level fatigue, like, I don't feel so good today, but tomorrow you feel pretty good. Or it can be something that kind of builds up over time. And the next thing you know, you feel like you've just got slammed by a truck. An invisible injury, fatigue, it's kind of part of the endurance game, right? I mean, in your training, what you're trying to do is to sort of overreach from where your fitness is at so that your fitness goes to that next level, but then you have to recover from it so that you can absorb the benefit of it without getting overly fatigued. I've got a story from my career that I'm going to tell you in a moment, but why is this so important for the second season? Well, from what I've seen over many, many years is that most people train pretty well in the first half of the year, from that January through end of May, early June season part. But in that second season, from June through October, November, December, that's when fatigue can really start to set in. When you've been doing training, you haven't been putting quite enough energy back into your body with enough recovery time, enough sleep time, enough easier weeks so that your body can regenerate, and all of a sudden you start to hit this wall where things start to get really difficult. You might get injured, you might get sick, you might just feel completely burned out, and the second season is where you should really reap the benefits of all that hard work. So before I get to my story, let me just give you 3 simple things that might give you an indication, if you don't know it already, that you're kind of getting into that fatigue state that is not sustainable. One is you can't get your heart rate up. It's like really tough to get your heart rate up. You're tired. What's another thing? You start out for, let's say, an easy run, and right away you feel like your body's full of lactate at an easy pace. You're fatigued. You're in the pool and your average times per 100 have gotten significantly slower, almost like overnight. You're fatigued. You can maybe get your heart rate up for a little bit, swimming, cycling, or running, but then it drops right back down because no matter how hard you try, you can't keep it up there. These are signs that you are fatigued, that you have that invisible injury, because it's not an injury like a classic thing like my knee hurts. You can pinpoint that, or God forbid, you got in a crash and your shoulder hurt or whatever it is. Fatigue is sort of like this global thing that sort of sneaks up little by little by little. And so as best as you can in this second season, the second half of the summer, really try to tune into how your body is feeling energetically. A couple things you can ask yourself. Am I having more days of the week where I feel fresh than wasted? If you're feeling more wasted than fresh, you need to do something about it. You're finding that one day you feel amazing. You might even set a PR in your training, but then the next day you're so exhausted you can barely get out of bed. Another sign that you're really deep into fatigue. You get sleep, but you wake up completely foggy in the brain, wondering, how am I going to get out there and work out? Yeah, you can have that next cup of coffee, but maybe it's better to just roll over, go back to sleep, get extra sleep in that day instead of going to that early morning swim workout. So those are just some tips. My story, in 1993, I completed my Ironman in October, 5th win in a row. I won 89, 90, 91, 92, and 93. A month after Kona was going to be the birth of our son. And so I knew that I had a month to really recover from a long season, from that 5th victory. But he came 2 weeks early. And I will never forget when we had to go to the hospital or go to the birthing place. This thought was running through my head: I'm not recovered yet. I thought I had 2 more weeks to keep sleeping in, to just take things easy, but I knew now that I was going to have a newborn in the home and probably wasn't going to be getting a lot of sleep. Well, that following year, 1994, I was tired the whole year. It set in motion something where I didn't honor that recovery that I needed after Ironman, because our son was born, and he took top priority for sure. Top priority over my workouts, over sleep, a lot of things that usually get me in shape. Well, 1994, I did not race in Kona. I went to Ironman Germany and had a terrible race. I exhibited that exact one of those signs that I was super fatigued that I told you about. On the bike, I could barely get my heart rate up to about 150 beats a minute, but then it would drop down to like 130. And I'm not going to win a race if my heart rate's at 130 on the bike. So I was tired the whole year, and it even went into 1995 when I came back and won my sixth and final title. How I completely recovered is a story for another time, but that whole year in 1995, almost 2 years after the win in 93, I was still having to cut back on a lot of my training, cutting back on volume, cutting back on a lot of the speed work, so that my body could continually put energy back in, so that hopefully by the time October came in 95, I could have that one last great race, hopefully win title number 6, which I did. So if you are in your second season, the second half of the summer, and you are feeling like, I'm not sure, I have a couple of those signs that Mark was just talking about, what do? One thing, take tomorrow off. And then the 2 days after that, cut your training down by about 50% of what you had planned to do. And keep everything easy, aerobic. If you bounce back after that, awesome, you caught it early. If you're still feeling that, I'm off feeling, take the next 7 days after that purely aerobic. Don't do anything fast. I don't care what speed work you had planned. Keep everything purely aerobic, low intensity, drop down the intensity. Put on the swim paddles and pull buoy in the water. Keep your heart rate low. Put your bike in an easy gear. Spin easy. Don't even get into the big chain ring. Run at a pace that's a few minutes per mile slower than you're used to going. If you still feel tired after that, the following 7 days, cut all of your training down by 50% and see how you feel. If you start to come back, then the week after that, build it back up to about 75% of what you had planned. And then if you are feeling good after that, toward the end of that week, then if you need to, start adding back some speed work, and then hopefully the recovery will continue, and by the week following that one, you can go back to 100%. Fatigue, the invisible injury. Take care of it. Mark Allen, second season, it's just getting going.